Okay, so for continuing on week number 5, let's see, we got some. Trying to find it here. Okay, so week number 5 after this set is Arya versus Telecom. So we'll see Telecom again.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure that Telecom heavily outmatches Arya. I'm not quite sure if Arya's MMR, but I'm pretty sure he was lower end on the A team.
Uh-huh.
Can you, sorry, just quick, do you hear a lot of background noise from my mic?
No, I
Okay.
I hear pretty clear.
All right, cool. There's some background noise like a fan or something, so glad that
Okay.
that's not coming through.
Got it.
All right. This is our 4th set of the Lost replay sets in CPL Season 2. And on Crossing Fields in a PvP, or sorry,
PvP.
PvT, there we go. Our Protoss player in the upper corner of Crossing Fields, it's Telecom and White Clan at this point as the green Protoss.
Yeah, and then we've got our peach, I guess, like a pink
Light pink, yeah.
Terran. Yeah, and we've got Arya, the pink Terran in the bottom right of Crossing Field, two-player map. So a PvT. I'm glad we get to see PvT. I actually think to play, maybe to watch PvT is my favorite.
Okay,
Like
so
I just really love or watching or casting or playing PvT.
yeah, I definitely agree. I think PvT is, yeah, definitely, at least right now, is my favorite matchup to cast. It's, especially the later game, the engagements seem they're so cool, and when you got two really well matched players, it's definitely like a game of chess. Going back and forth with the massive armies. You don't quite get that well orchestrated attacks like you in other matchups. Now, PvT on Crossing Fields. Crossing Fields does affect this game a bit. Typically, carriers are pretty good on this map.
Gas steal from Telecom.
Ooh, that's huge.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah, yeah. This map is really good for carriers because you can just sort of any of these lower or the upper left or lower right middle bases, like the ones in the middle of the map, you can take those and defend them with carriers, and then you can also deny them uh, to other to the other player with carriers, and it's harder to reinforce because they're so far. And then also you can hit those back third bases really easily. So carriers are really good on this map. Um, Arbiters can get interesting with recalls to different bases. They're definitely still usable, but I'd prefer carriers.
Yeah, I would say this map is a little bit harder to engage straightforwardly on with a typical like Arbiter mass gateway unit. Just because if the Terran can get on some of these long plateaus with tanks, it's just hard to coordinate a large attack into unless they're unprepared. So that's why I think carriers are I'm sorry, I just opened the replay progress. There we go. Carriers are pretty good, and then if people do go arbiters, typically we are more recall heavy as opposed to fighting in the middle with stasis.
Oh yeah, so we see Telecom in the bottom of the map. Could go for something like a proxy reaver. Um, at this point, I'd say either DT, but I think proxy reaver probably, because at this point it lines up with the money he's got. Okay,
Yep.
so we do have the SCV in here. He sees that there's no back base actually, but the Dragoon should be able to push it out. So yeah, proxy robo. Obviously, proxy robo. You're probably not gonna go proxy observer. You're probably gonna go proxy reaver.
Right.
Um, So we'll have to see. And yeah, based off the fact he's producing zealots at home, he'll probably send those, maybe pick them up with the shuttle or something like that. Because if you have a couple zealots in the shuttle with your Reaver, it just really maximizes the effectiveness.
Yeah, and this proxy Reaver with the gas deal coming up is really really fortunate for Telecom. It means all the things that Arya needs to defend this will be later. The turrets, the FAC, just gonna be so late, and did expand, so his SCV count will be all right, but this will definitely be a headache for Arya to defend
Yeah, and yeah, the SCV count is really good, but the proxy Reaver can change that.
very quickly.
Yeah, it obviously it all depends upon the micro. It's a very like micro intensive strategy. Anything having to do with Reavers is. So yeah, we do have two factory coming out after the. I mean, they are very delayed factories because I mean the gas was so slow. The
Right.
gas was first at the natural. So
And the engineering bay as well is up, so he can get turrets now.
mhm. Yeah, he does have turrets going up. So that is nice. Nice sense of hey, he'll go for some sort of drop, some sort of aggressive play, whether it be Reaver, whether it be, you know, like an elevator. Although that's not as popular on this map because there's more of a distance. Like if it was like Circuit Breaker or Fighting Spirit, you could sort of elevator units
Right.
right onto the. Okay, let's see. One Zealot, one Reaver. There's the turret.
Okay, the Reaver is dropped, and let's see how good the shot is.
Oh,
Oh, duds actually. Oh, this shot. Oh, gets another dud. Arya is so fortunate.
yeah.
Only gets a
Like those
turret.
those SUVs are so stacked. Oh god.
Oh, a
All those
nice hit
Marines
on
go
the
down.
Marines though.
Oh, we've got SCVs attacking Reaver. That usually isn't what.
Oh my goodness. Okay,
Gosh,
Arya has
these
so
are
many
the biggest.
duds.
Okay, yeah, there's one.
Oh,
Ooh,
loses the Reaver.
yeah, actually loses the Reaver. He got one good hit though, and this Zealot actually has 3 kills, so that's nice.
So this Reaver drop didn't go as terribly for Arya as it could have gone. He definitely was really lucky on a couple of the Reaver
Duds.
duds, but still, he got some damage, and I think Telecom's in an okay position. His natural is really delayed,
Yeah,
and although it really is helped out by the fact that it's a gas steal, if this wasn't a gas steal, I think then Telecom would be in trouble now. But he's getting his target up, so we could see some sort of two-based arbiter play.
yeah, and actually we've got only tanks produced so far by Arya. Okay, now we have the first vultures being produced. Um, but we've got spider mines and vulture speed being researched at once. Um, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it proceeds from here. Uh, Obviously that was very delayed. We have the Arbiter. It looks like the Arbiter tech path because we've got Citadel and Templar Archives coming up. But I'd say that was still an acceptable Reaver drop because the Zealot got 3 kills and then the Reaver got at least like 5.
Right.
Plus it killed the Marines. So.
Yeah, definitely cost effective there and saved the
Oh,
shuttle.
actually producing observers from the. I mean, might as well be
Right.
producing observers from your proxy robo.
And yeah, we do have so this is two-base arbiter. The third's up now, but can still consider two-base arbiter play, and that's pretty aggressive. Basically Protoss had two main choices at this point, whether they can go for a faster third, like maybe a minute or two ago, or they can go for a lot more arbiter tech. And
Hmm. Yeah,
Telecom
teching heavy.
Yeah, because this wasn't a traditional opening, the line's a little bit blurred, so it's kind of in between. Um, but the Arbiter Tech is still coming up pretty quickly.
We do have mines out, and these dragoons could run into mines or something. There's not an observer with them.
Oh,
Ooh, that's a
okay.
big hit. Yeah, that was
Luckily,
a
only
big,
lost one.
yeah, that could have been even worse for Telecom, considering he was going. Okay, observers coming up from the proxy robo. So
Arbiter.
maybe we might have like a dropship coming out of Arya, based on the fact he has a control tower. Uh, could go for something like a tank and two vultures to the back base, something like that.
Right.
Because that is always you know, mine up the ramp and then just have the siege tank go to town on the probes. Always good.
Yeah, drops are really good on this map. It's a lot of airspace that Protoss has to cover. So Telecom's Arbiter Tech is out. He's
Ooh, his
producing Arbiter.
dragoons actually took a mine hit. So these dragoons that are middle of the map, um, very bruised. One of them has 4 hit points.
Yeah, I'm just adding on gates now. Right now, his gateway army is actually really low.
Yeah, I think that's partly based on the fact he's teching so quickly after having a, like, sort of like a one base Reaver, proxy Reaver. So, like, the economic engine is sort of slowly getting going.
Yeah, and also Telecom is not producing anything out of his Tribunal. Stasis needs to get that going or recall at this point because Stasis will be a bit late. That's something that's going to hurt him. If he doesn't get that going soon, then we'll be delayed. Although, you know, Arbiter does take so long to get energy that it could work out for him.
Okay, he starts stasis.
Okay. So that's correct. Stasis correct. First is correct because going recall, you basically have the potential to use stasis first before you could use recall, and then by the time you have enough energy for recall, you can have both anyways. So.
Yeah, the only thing you could say, if he was going to delay the upgrade, then he could delay it to get recall, because then it would be. I mean,
Right.
but you don't really want to delay any of them. You want to have both stasis and recall. And so we do have a little vulture aggressiveness at the bottom. Took out the probe, making the 4th base.
Yes, this is nice from Arya. Just cleaning some probes, laying some mines down. Nice and aggressive. Saves the dropship for more drops. And that's
Alright, so
something.
he sees the proxy robo with his dropship. He should go down there and just take that out, because it's just an annoyance having it on the map. Second Stargate is up. Could be producing a second Arbiter out of that. Should be soon.
And we have stasis done. Needs to be getting recall. There we go. Recall is started. And ground upgrades are starting as well for Telecom.
Alright, we've got Arya heading out with these vultures and dragoons. These dragoons should just get wiped out.
Yeah, these two. Yeah, these brutal mine hits. So that's unfortunate. He really doesn't have that many goons at all.
Yeah, it's a largely zealot army. He does have the Arbiter though, and there's no. Let's see. He's just going to be relying on two comsats for Arya, and he is going to take out the. Really, he could just send like a single tank or 2 tanks down here. He doesn't need to send his whole army down to wipe this out, but.
The one issue is that Arya's army is actually quite small. There's really not that many tanks, and Telecom can probably engage this if. Well, it depends. If he catches Arya in a bad siege, he can run in with his zealots.
Okay, I think Arya's gonna go to try to siege up this 4th, but I think Telecom could like go around to the top and take this out. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I think this is definitely attackable for Telecom. Okay, here we go. We'll see if he goes for a stasis at the back.
Ooh, the vultures are really blocking off the. Okay, yeah, he goes around to the top. The stasis. Ooh, and the dropship. Ooh, and just a GG.
Yeah, they're this army from Telecom just rolling through, and just because Arya's factory production was so delayed, it will just go down that quickly.
Yeah, you just kind of have to say, like, I felt like a couple things went wrong for each person in that game, but just the overall quality of Telecom was pretty evident. Even though his drop was his early Reaver was okay. It wasn't anything special. It's not like it crippled Arya. His bases were later, but just he was just able to continually through that quality of his play.
Exactly, yeah, and I mean, really, the gas blocks. I mean, if you can win a game from gas block, it actually is huge. Um, Winning a
Yeah.
game as a T after a gas block is tough, just because like it shows that you really your your factory production is delayed so much that it's really hard. Even if Telecom was going for not really a gateway unit heavy strat, and he was still able to produce enough to just roll over his army. So, Arya is at such a disadvantage right from the start.
Hmm.
But to introduce our players, this is game number 2, and in the top here we have the brown Terran Arya.
Hmm. And then in the bottom left, our teal Protoss is Telecom from the White clan. And so after that first game on Crossing Field, a little less standard, 2-player map, we've got the most standard of maps,
Mm-hmm.
Fighting Spirit. Um, oh, it was going Raxife regardless of gas steel or not. LOL. Okay. Well, would have to say, I mean, yeah, Raxife is like a really common build anyway. But it's nice if you're going for that sort of proxy Reaver play to just make sure that they're not going for factory.
Yeah, Telecom is saying the Reaver dud. Yeah, those were pretty insane. Like, if any of those huge shots would have connected, that could
Yeah,
have
game.
been game.
Um, yeah, but what do you think we could see here? I think after that first game, we might see something more aggressive out of Arya, but I'm not sure how effective it would be. Like, I feel like, okay, we're seeing a gateway on the low ground from Telecom, so probably going to be aggressive there because obviously it's a slightly shorter distance, and he's going to scout first. Although we are going to have the barracks supply in a microable position for the Marines.
Yeah, Gate on the low ground could mean a couple different things. He could be going for a Zealot first. Um,
Mhm.
just a small aggressive thing. Yeah, is going for Zealot first. So,
Yep.
that's something that I personally don't do a ton. But you can try to get some uh, Marine kills, maybe even a SCV kill or two, and it's definitely viable. And it
Mhm.
forces a little bit, it forces some careful play from the Terran.
Mhm.
Other than that, you know, Terran can always be aggressive, can be somewhat aggressive. They go for something like a FD, a strong FD, something like that,
Uh-huh.
on pretty much any map.
Okay,
And
so we just have the cyber right next to that high ground pylon. So
yeah,
probably a zealot or two to probably just one zealot to force a little pressure, force micro out of our Terran, and then probably right to dragoons. Could go into a little dragoon pressure or something if our Terran goes for like a gasless. Well, no. Okay, we have gas being mined, so yeah, I think we might just see Arya like go into a good amount of Marines and then go like tank, vulture, one of those really common
ooh,
pushes.
yeah, this is a really nice position from Arya. He's not
Ooh, but
letting that doing any damage.
so many SCVs pulled though. I feel like too many.
Yeah, possibly, but not taking any damage, not losing an SCV or any probe or any Marines to that Zealot, pretty big accomplishment. And so yeah, I think pretty well defended from Arya. The pull definitely maybe might have been too long, but
Uh-huh.
really well defended there.
Yeah, yeah, still really well defended. Not like a like barely lost anything. But yeah, didn't lose anything. Uh but these Marines are softened up. I have noticed that there are still Marines making out of the barracks. At this number, I'm thinking this is some sort of probably yep, spider mine. So we'll probably have one tank, uh a couple more Marines, and then maybe even I don't even know, SCVs.
It
And
was
then you push out with the tank, wait, and then you have the vulture catch up with your push, you know?
yeah, will be FD, that type of push. So he's producing more Marines. So I think it's up to between 6 and 8 Marines, a tank. Sometimes players even wait for 2 tanks. There's a couple different variations of this push.
Okay, yeah, two tank push. So this is a little more has a little more power to it.
Yeah,
But it's not quite as fast as if you go for uh the vulture immediate or the vulture as the second unit, and then he would have pushed out already if he was going for the vulture next. But we do have a decent dragoon count. There's only one gate up, robo coming up, and a second gate on the way. Well, it will all come down to micro because range is done.
okay, now some of those Marines are pretty soft, so
Ooh,
Arya
yeah,
is getting ahead of himself.
good start. Yeah, because you need the tanks were not there. You need the tanks to be doing the damage while these Marines are just buffering. Like that's their only use.
Did get some pretty good tank shots off on the Reavers, so they are
Yeah.
all pretty wounded, so he needs to be careful.
hmm Yeah, yeah. That was it was a good second part, but if he had the tanks there the whole time, we could see like a couple dead dragoons already.
And now there is up to 5 goons. Those can easily micro down those tanks. Actually, Arya might want to pull back here because he
Yeah,
can
yeah.
use those tanks.
Only one zealot buffering. Okay, we're gonna see mine goes down.
Okay, so actually the mines now allow Arya to retreat and
Ooh,
save that
observatory.
tank.
Yeah. Observatory is up. Observer not producing.
So Telecom is going after that Zealot, going for pretty standard. He went for a 28 next and then is going into his, 3 gates producing goons observer style, which is pretty standard here. And Arya's in pretty good shape, not losing the tank to that FD. And not getting much done with the FD isn't a huge deal, but actually pretty significant that he saved that one tank.
Yeah. Because losing both tanks is just you're just in a really bad position from there.
Yeah, and Telecom from this point might go into a standard 2 base macro. Okay, he's actually going for he has a robotic support base, so he might probably going for
Okay.
Reaver.
Yeah, it looks like another Reaver then, because the shuttle is coming out. He has one observatory, or one observer, and then he'll probably go Reaver right after that. Maybe we'll even see like a speed shuttle or something like that. Um, we'll have to see.
Yeah, Reaver is really interesting in the PvT because it really comes down to you got to micro the Reaver around and it kind of attacking because you are sacrificing some gateway units. Ooh, Telecom's actually supply block now. You're
Uh-huh.
sacrificing the a level of your gateway count number, but you can attack in and distract with your Reaver and get some economic harass done.
Yeah. And then also if they push too hastily, if they're unsieged or something, you can do a lot of you can take out a bunch of vultures. You can even take out tanks and stuff if they're pushing really aggressively. So it's sort of checks the Terran if they're getting too aggressive, and then also can do a lot of economic damage. Um, but also it slows down the rest of your tech. Like it slows down your tech to speed zealots. It slows down your tech to eventually like high Templar and whether it be like arbiter or carriers. Like because if you were going for like a 2 base arbiter, then
Right.
the Reaver slows it down so much because it's a large gas commitment.
Yeah, I think after Reaver, carriers are quite common.
Hmm.
Especially on Fighting Spirit, carriers are pretty good. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see carriers from this point, especially depending on if he gets some damage done with the Goon, with the Reaver, then he can tech into carriers.
Hmm.
Some Goons in the middle of the map engaging with some Vultures.
Yeah.
We're
Ooh.
going to lose him to the... Oh, that was
Whoa.
lucky.
Yeah. Yeah. We've got 11 health Dragoon. Yeah, that was those could have all died, I think. We still only have two factories for Arya. So,
Yeah, you're right. He's just adding him on
oh,
now.
here we go, Reaver. Let's
Okay.
see what the Reaver's got. Man, Telecom is having the glitchiest Reavers of all
Oh,
time.
okay, there's a shot. Oh, and there's another
Yeah,
one.
that was a nice shot. But that first Scarab or two, yeah, you can just get the really real stud Scarabs, and it can
Yeah, if
sort of
Telecom...
just weaken the whole it still forces a lot of pulls. Like whenever scarabs are dudding, it's usually because the Terran or whether it be Terran Protoss or it's usually because they're pulling workers effectively and stuff like that. But that time it was just getting caught on minerals.
Yeah, if
So,
Telecom would have dudded all those shots, I'm sure he would have probably lost his mind there. So,
uh-huh.
gets a couple there. And, the Reaver's doing a good job keeping Arya on his toes and getting some good economic harassment. Can't imagine it getting much done beyond this point,
Hmm.
because there are enough turrets and there's defensive measures.
One thing you can always do, he's not going to do it. Actually, his units are heading up there, but I think the Terran has got it now. One thing you can always do is sometimes it is hard for a Terran to take that third base if you get units up at the third before their units are, but I think there's enough up here that Telecom needs to pull back. The real question is there enough at the natural right now? Could Telecom just push through to the natural because he sees so many units at that third?
It would be a little bit dicey.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah.
not okay. Now, actually, there's some units just kind of. It looks like Arya is coming in for a push here. While he's getting his third base up and running, he's kind of pushing out with his tanks. There's quite a number of
Hmm.
zealots and goons here, though.
I definitely question this because generally as a Terran against Protoss, you're going for like upgrade based pushes. Uh, you know, like a 2-1 or a 1-1, something like that. Uh, so while you're getting your third up, what are you gaining by pushing at this point? Like, what are you gaining on the map? What are you gaining? Or what are you denying?
Right. Yeah. So
Like, he should just take up a defensive stature and defend his third base, and then eventually, get all his upgrades and then push out.
it's
I'd
true.
say.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Um, Telecom is going for carriers. He's got two Stargates in his main producing carriers,
Hmm.
so that he will have plenty of time, I think, to get maybe two carriers out before with interceptors before Arya attacks.
Hmm.
And he's actually got a decent supply lead. His third is up, got pretty healthy probe count, and Telecom is also looking to get his fourth. But the third coming out from Arya, no, Terrans are pretty scary on three bases.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Once you get that third base up and you're just able to, usually you're able to upgrade and macro out a really strong army. Um, I don't know what Arya has scouted with his vision, but he definitely hasn't scouted much of the main, so he definitely doesn't know about carriers.
Yeah, and the crucial thing is that the Goliath count is really low. He's got maybe two Goliaths with this arc, maybe four actually, with this army. And if he doesn't scout it, then he won't likely add too many more on, and then the carry switch can hit pretty hard.
And one thing that is interesting is we only have one machine uh, about to be six factories. So his if he loses tanks, their production coming back out is going to be slow. Okay, second machine shop coming out.
Yeah, that's a pretty low machine shop count. And
I think that scan saw the fleet beacon.
hmm.
Yeah, it did. At least saw part of it.
You have
Okay, so he's
Goliaths on the
pushing in.
production.
He's pushing in through the middle.
Okay, this is a
All
really
right.
bad angle. He's getting wrapped around here. Zealots are getting on the tanks. Telecom is just gonna pull back. Oh, tries to go for Reaver drop, but failed.
Ooh, but we just have vultures engaging dragoons.
Yeah, this is not going too well for Telecom. I mean, for Arya. Just down to goons now, so he has to be careful. He needs to pull back and not take this engagement until he can get some more zealots out here and the carriers.
Yeah.
The carriers are coming in here from the side, though, and this is pure tank.
All right. So I think as soon as he saw those, oh yeah, pull those. He needs to pull those tanks back like now, because these are, these are carriers that already have 8 interceptors each, and they're not losing any. And like I said, only 2 machine shops. Those tanks are going to be coming out of there, coming out of those 2 factories slow. Oh,
GG is called.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think Arya realized that he couldn't get enough Goliaths up in time to defend that many carriers.
Yeah, carriers that already had 8 interceptors. It's not like they were. It's not like they were not upgraded already. Because if you're dealing with like 4 interceptor carriers, like sometimes you can even like you can just build a bunch of turrets and repair them. But when you get that, plus he still had a decent chunk of army, it was going to be rough.